Recently, in one of my videos, I played against a Charizard EX and a Dunsparce deck, featuring the Enriching Energy, which seems really powerful since you can attach Enriching Energy to your Dunsparce and draw a bunch of cards. And then I saw the deck list appear on my Twitter feed over here, which only incentivized me to actually play the deck a bit more. I think with Charizard EX win rate kind of being in the dumpster right now, the deck needs to find some sort of change to maintain any sort of any sense of relevancy. And so, I think cutting the Pidgeot and moving to the Dunsparce engine is great, as there's plenty of decks right now that can capitalize on the Pidgeot for multiple prizes very easily, and with Budew, it becomes really hard to set the Pidgeot without using Grand Tree, which one takes up your ace-spec slot, and two also gives your opponent the advantage of Grand Tree as well. So, I think that this is a perfect way to compensate and make the deck kind of viable again. If you guys appreciate the video, make sure to like, comment down below, and subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoyed the match. Alrighty, again, start with the first match here. I will say, I'm really not a big fan of Charizard in general. I'm kind of happy to see it, like, fading off the face of the earth right now. But honestly, I've never found the deck to be that fun. I think the most fun I had with the deck was when I was playing like this Lost Zone hybrid version that just used Comfeys and Cramorants in the early game to give you a little bit of pressure with the Cramorant and then starts with the Charizard afterwards. And that was kind of the most fun I had with the deck. But I think this version is really cool, and I think that's mostly to the Dunsparce. I think I've talked about it before when I was talking about like my favorite decks in 2024, but I think that the Dunsparce engine is one of the craziest cool engines that we've had in the game, because it requires a lot of skill to upkeep, and it just gives you a lot of like a lot of tools, so you can use it as both a burst draw and a backup draw, as you can store it for later to play around cards like Iono, or you can use it to take a bit further for combos. I think it works perfectly in a deck like this, because sometimes you just need that little bit of reach to actually go ahead and piece together your Dusknoir or Charizard combos or whatever, which I think is super strong. We are playing against a Hydreigon EX deck, which is kind of like one of those perfect decks to match up into, because it kind of tests like, oh, who's the best like stage 2 Pokemon here. And Hydreigon's got some actual legs going for it, mostly with just the meta changes favoring it, as Budew has made a lot of decks greedier in their setup. So people were more prioritizing like big payoffs towards the end of the game, such as things like Dragapult, who can spread a bunch of damage and set up a bunch of Dusknoirs, or, Hydreigon, who itself has two very powerful attacks on it. Kind of makes Charizard mute in comparison, because Charizard's, like, only kind of shtick is that he has a lot of damage, which is nice, but it doesn't lead to you taking multiple knockouts, so you become a lot more reliant on Briar and other common pieces than decks in its same caliber typically would. But my opponent's going to have a slow startup here, being able to only TM Evo one of their cards, and then they're also going to go ahead and possibly attack me with the Crashing Headbutt. They do reveal the TM Devolution though, which I think is a smart play, because it sets me back a lot. I did burn one Rare Candy to evolve into this, so it really requires me to have another Rare Candy in my hand, and if I don't, then that's rough. On top of that, I couldn't find another way of saying that more Dunsparces or Dudunsparces last turn, so I really don't have a lot of reach on my draw here. The only other thing I should have maybe considered before using the Iono was using the Night Stretcher to grab another energy back, because this would allow me to, more safely be able to ramp energies with my next Charizard EX. That said, I decided to hold on to the Night Stretcher instead, because as long as I can ramp one energy, I could still attach another one from my hand, even though it kind of interferes with the Enriching Energy value. I also have to consider whether or not the Dusclops was optimal. There's a couple ways you could look at it, because one, I could use that Dusclops before I Iono'd, and that would have been good, because that would have crippled my opponent's, cards that would have gotten off their hand, as they would have had to take a prize and then put their hand to the bottom. And then draw less cards because they have less prizes. But at the same time, I also think my setup is really bad too, and I kind of need to get off the ground very quickly, I think. So I think me using the Dusclops afterwards is okay value. But I also don't think I had to click it immediately. I think I was just a little terrified of possibly losing it, so I wanted to pull the trigger on it a little bit quicker. We're going to go ahead and use the Dunsparce to get some extra value here. If we do hit the Enriching Energy, That said, I'd like to thin out my deck of all the cards that, like, I know I'm gonna want, so I'm gonna use the Ultra Ball as well to probably grab a Dunsparce. Or I could just use Enriching Energy either, you know, whatever works, I guess. But no, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the Dunsparce, mostly to increase my ability to draw to the cards I need. Because if I'm able to kill this Hydreigon in front of me, my opponent's gonna be set back a lot in terms of potential value, as they've stuck their counter gain onto it, they have 2 energies on it. It's going to be just really rough for my opponent to find a way out of this situation. I do thankfully have enough energies in the deck after charting through a lot of cards this turn and finding my my Super on, which I really needed. You know, going back earlier, I should have maybe considered using the Night Stretcher for the Fire Energy, but here we are. And I'm just going to go ahead and sub as much stuff as humanly possible. Draw a few more cards of Fez, just to be sure. Evolve another guy, you know, really go the full bio here. Evolving my Dusclops here, I just realized also allows me to take the knockout, which is extremely devastating on my opponent, as I'm going to be able to possibly just, you know, use the Dunsparce to fish for a boss and kill the Fezandipiti next turn, or, you know, evolve Rare Candy, Dusknoir, and then kill the Hydreigon in the active. So I have a lot of ways of just punishing the opponent, and my super aggressive draw engine allows me to just get farther ahead of my opponent and win the game there. We are going to move on to the second game. I believe we have 4 games tonight here. And, you know, I'm starting to, you know, get more familiar with the deck. I believe the order I played all these matches is in the order I, like, played them, except I think I have the 3rd and the 4th game mixed around. But we were going to see a Duraludon here. Unfortunately with you on the Pokegear, which is tragic, but, you know, it is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and start using the Buddy Poffin to grab another Dunsparce and a Duskull, as I have the Charmander in my hand. I'm really not too afraid of leaving one Charmander up, since it usually doesn't get punished. My opponent doesn't have any cards in the discard pile currently, so I'm like, yeah, you know, it's probably fine. And I also go ahead and send the Duskull, so my opponent does end up managing to do attack here, and knocking out the Pokemon in the active. I'd much rather have them get rid of the Duskull than me to lose one of my sources of potential draw, because I could combo like 2 Dudunsparces into each other, and that could be what I need to, you know, get ahead in the game. Unfortunately, my opponent just ends up not having anything, so Dusknoir Bomb is just clutching me out the game and, you know, winning that really, really intense hard match. Oh man, that was really back and forth there. I think this is the most interesting match. I was going to put up in front, but I figured maybe seeing Cyclizar would turn people off. But yeah, my opponent is playing Buffalo Cyclizar, which is at the very least interesting. I mean, drawing 5 cards is powerful. What else can I say? And they're also going to generously give me the Artazon as well, which is extremely nice of them. That said, I did see the Buffalo and have like a mini panic attack. It's like, oh no, is this Tropicus? Am I going to get like Pechadogged? Typically those versions that play the Buffalons are like the double turbo energy versions and not like the cloth builds. So I shouldn't have been too worried about it, but it is interesting to think about how the meta has shifted a little bit from the opening hand. Because before, you wouldn't want to put down more than one Pokemon. And the reason for that is that Escape Rope was in the game. And so let's just say you put down like Chimpao and Budew, or just any Pokemon in Budew. If your opponent had an Escape Rope, it'd be able to very easily push the Budew into the active, and that would force you to, you know, waste an energy attachment or find the switch to get out of that spot there. And that's really rough. So you only wanted to put one Pokemon down. On top of that, the amount of information you give your opponent is also important. So if your opponent only sees the Duskull, they're not necessarily going to know what it is exactly. They can make assumptions like, oh, they could think it's Dragapult, or they could think it's Terapagos. And so they have to play around that thought. But the less information you give your opponent to work off of while going second, you know, it can make a marginal difference. It's at least a good thing to have practiced. But right now, it's a little bit sketchy to do that, because a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but at the very least, I think the Petroret decks are on the radar currently, and Petroret could just knock you out turn 1 before you even get to play the game. Let alone, you know, whoever the asshole is running our Valiant currently at the moment. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of situations where you could lose on the first turn of the game if you don't overbench, or bench more than one Pokemon. So I think it's a habit I need to get used to. Technically, there's one punish for having multiple Pokemon on the field, which is just Iron Bundle. I don't really consider that much of a punish because typically when your opponent plays the escape rope, they're also getting some value off of it too. They need to switch. But the Iron Bundle feels, sometimes a little bit too overcommittal, especially because it might require their Nest Ball and exchange like their proper setup for, something else entirely. I'm gonna go ahead and Artazon for a second Charmander because at this point I kind of wanted to start getting the second Charizard ready, just to have it available just in case. As I am gonna go ahead and just evolve into my Charizard EX, woo, and unfortunately take out one energy. I do think I missequenced this turn a little bit because I focus a lot on doing all the Dunsparce draws first, which does mean I unfortunately do not get to ramp as many energies out of my deck, and I end up technically dead drawing energies because of that. I say they're dead draws because ultimately, if I had played an energy from my hand for the turn, I would like it to be the Enriching Energy instead. And, obviously, Charizard can ramp 3 energies. It's kind of why it's good. It essentially draws 3 cards out of your deck and then puts them into play immediately. So the fact that we lose some value on that sucks. That said, my opponent does not have the last energy they need. I believe it's a dark energy for Zircon Road. So they're going to have to go with the basic trapping your attack and shoot through, which only does 100 damage, places 30 somewhere. So not good for them, but they're going to pull out the boss's orders and knock out my Dusclops, which does suck a little bit, because the Dusclops could have been nice for just setting up into a Dusknoir and possibly taking out a Blue Flaw, or getting me like way further into the game. Alas, I am still in a decent position, because now with that knockout, I can knock out the Cyclizar right in front of me without having to use anything. But yeah, it's still rough. And one of the things that sucks in this specific situation is the Cyclizar is like 1 HP off from like Dusknoir knocking it out. It's a very unconventional situation, but the fact that Dusknoir can't knock it out and I'd have to commit a Dusclops and a Dusknoir, or double Dusknoir even, just sounds really rough. Thankfully, though, we kind of get like our full value out of the draw this turn, hitting both our Dudunsparces and hitting the Enriching Energy as well, which allows us to get hella value. And now, I'm just thinking about like what else I want to do here. I'm considering using Rare Candy into the Dusknoir. I'm like, if they knock it out, I don't get like a lot of value out of it. But, I think I'm just being paranoid. I really think I should just probably evolve it. Like, the downside is like, oh no, I lost a Rare Candy. But at the same time, like, look at my hand size, bro. I don't think it matters. And I also think my opponent's probably playing a very aggressive draw engine if they can, seeing as they draw 5 new cards every turn. But yeah. Also, they're going to go ahead and Glass Trumpet, which, attaching to the Blood Moon's, like, kind of okay, because it gives them a way to one-shot my Fezandipiti. But, it's still very far off from actually being able to do something. And my opponent is going to go ahead and Prime Catcher up the Charmander. I don't think I was quite ready for Prime Catcher, of all things. I figured if this deck was going to play an Ace Spec, I'd probably play the Sparkling Crystal in order to make the attack easier, but they don't. So, it is what it is. But there is one unfortunate thing here, in that they left me one Duskull in play instead of knocking out both of them. And so what that means is that I could technically win this turn, because all the world loves is, massive Charizard value, massive Charizard sucks. All I have to do is hit the Briar in my deck, which I have quite a few draws available to me. So first off, I'm using the Dusknoir just to take a prize and get it out of the way. I could have restrained on it. It's probably smarter to do that, because now that I've popped my Dusknoir, and if I miss to get this Briar knockout combo thing, then there's a chance they could just boss up my Fezandipiti and win next turn. So I should have possibly shown some more restraint. But, if I'm putting this in the YouTube video, which is kind of all I care about, I'm definitely going to dig a little bit deeper and just go like, yeah, I want it. And we are just going to go ahead and thin out as many cards as possible from our deck, which is why we use the Ultra Ball to grab the Dusknoir, even though I don't really need it. And we just hit the Briar, win the game. I even hit the Enriching Energy too, just to draw 4 more extra cards. We could have seen everything but the bottom 2 cards of our deck that game, which is crazy. And yeah, I've really been liking the insane burst value you get out of this. We didn't play against a lot of Budew, or any Budew at all, for the matter of fact. But I do feel like that having these tools available to you is really nice for just being able to pivot out and make it further. The only thing that I could kind of see being a tiny issue is that typically, like, your backup plan against Budew is Charmander for 2 energies could go ahead and knock it out. But that is also kind of rough, because you wouldn't be playing the Enriching Energy to, like, find more supporters or find more cards to get out of that situation. But, you know, it's fine, it's fine. Another way that you possibly beat it is by using the Dusclops, and because we play a thicker line with a 3-2-2 line instead of a 2-1-1 line that most of the Zord decks play, we have a higher chance of actually just raw dogging the Dusclops and being able to knock out the Budew that way. We'd still be item locked, of course, which sucks, but it gives us just an additional possible out available to us. My opponent really doesn't have a whole lot going on here, so it's like, what do I do? I am considering using the Ultra Ball and just grabbing another card out of the deck, but I figured, like, they haven't really shown much, so there's a big chance for Iono here. But they are going to go ahead and grab the Arvid instead, and try to set it for a little bit more. I believe they Ultra Ball last turn for our Dracloak. I'm not really sure why, but it's just like, I don't know what my opponent is doing. But they just go ahead and pass, and you know, you can already see the stars turning on my opponent's head, as I'm saying on a Dudunsparce, a Rare Candy, and a Dusknoir. So all I'm really looking for is a second Rare Candy, and I hit it, which means that I could just, you know, evolve into Dusknoir and knock it out, or I could evolve into Charizard and knock everything out. But yeah, you know. Fun video today, cool stuff. I love the Dunsparce, Enriching Energy is funny. And I don't have too much else to say. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And make sure to like, comment down below, subscribe, share it with your friends, do all the cool things, and I will see you guys around. Peace.